Hey Uncle Scar by Crescent Blue, a fanfiction read by Lionkingview. Chapter 1. Very impressionable. He was definitely an extremely intelligent lion. There was no doubt of his vocabulary skills, but his troubles lay in the usage of the words at hand. Scar had recently been lectured by his older brother. Oh, how he hated it when Mufasa or Sarabi found some imaginary fault to whine to him about. The most recent offense was his language. Yes, just words, but the words that left his lips seemed to have transcended beyond his non-existent audience. By non-existent audience, he meant his nephew, Simba. The cub was busy playing and chasing butterflies a short distance from where the dark lion was peacefully sunning himself on a rock. The older lion wasn't on any cub-sitting duties. He was in one of his rare moods where he wanted to get some fresh air away from his personal cave. It just so happened that the rest of the pride was out enjoying this perfect day as well. He had overheard an argument between Simba and the other cubs. The uproar was pathetically stupid in his view, but cubs will take issue with any little thing. This recent case being a tail length contest, with Simba allegedly cheating because he purposefully stood over some line they had marked. Soon after, Simba wandered over to where his favourite uncle was napping. For once, the jubilant cub didn't pester him while he slept. Scar even dared to feel overjoyed. It was a good day indeed. That was until a wasp decided to land on his hind leg and sting him out of his bliss. He normally kept his language refined, but situations like these don't call for finesse. He also knew a litany of curse words. He didn't spare anyone's ear. Simba, startled, hustled off thinking that he had disturbed his uncle and was in trouble for it. So much for the great outdoors. Later that afternoon, the lion pride returned to Pride Rock, but Mufasa needed to have a word with his brother. The king informed the younger noble that he needed to mind his tongue around the cubs in the future. They're very impressionable. Unless Scar had cursed so loudly that the entirety of the Pridelands heard it. There was only one other explanation. The runt had told his parents. Yes, the runt had told his parents. At the time, Scar didn't notice the absence of his nephew, as he was busy grooming the sting site. Mufasa's censorship rhetoric risked that future generations grew up to be painfully ignorant and overly sensitive. He couldn't let that happen on his watch. Impressionable, indeed. Chapter 2. Tailspin. Tails are something that most animals have. There are different uses for the tails depending on the species, but for the most part, it's a feature that's unique to animals. For many young, including lion cubs, the tail is a plaything. Particularly, Uncle Scar's tail is a plaything. When he slept, he could feel his tail being squished underneath small paws. When he ate, his tail would lift without control. When he groomed, his nephew would play tag with it. It made him want to bite off his tail, but then he'd have permanent issues with his balance and depth perception. He'd also look terribly ugly without it. He'd seen lions who'd lost their tail in battle or some other violent event, and they looked stupid. No, he would never look stupid. Currently, Simba was pawing at his uncle's flicking tail as the dark lion stared off into the distance. You do realize that you have a tail of your own, don't you? Of course I do, but yours is easier to catch. Chapter 3. Obvious questions. Uncle Scar, do you hate Zazu? Scar couldn't help the drawn-out eye roll that emanated from that question. The cub didn't see it as he was trying to bury himself in his uncle's ebony mane. Really now? Cubs weren't the brightest bundles, but this was just ridiculous. No, Simba. Zazu's just the best thing about the Pridelands.
There's no other animal I'd rather be around. In fact, he's as much fun to be around as you.
The Dark Prince's voice dripping with Fork's enthusiasm. Really? But you're so mean to him. Simba clearly didn't decipher the sarcasm as he perched himself on top of Scar's head. I'm on top of Mount Scar, the cub proclaimed, laughing at his little game. The uncle rolled to his side, causing Simba to tumble down, giggling all the way.
Am I? Why, you must be mistaken.
This cub is the future king, and his father isn't teaching him to read vocal cues and sarcasm. For shame. Well, Zazu does stink like that, Simba reconsidered while snuggling next to his uncle's head. Maybe there was hope for the young one after all.
Yes, he does indeed stink.
Scar should have known better, but the wheels were turning in his brain. Zazu was always bad-mouthing him whenever they crossed paths. His nephew doesn't particularly like the uppity Hornbill either. Matter of fact, neither do the other cubs. It was perfect.
Simba, I think I know a great game for you and your friends to play.
Scar couldn't help but chuckle maliciously. Cubs ask obvious questions, but they sometimes give obvious solutions to problems. Ooh, what is it, Uncle Scar? Simba excitedly demanded. Scar's new game would be his and his nephew's little secret. It left Zazu sore and stanchy, and Scar and Simba rather merry. Mufasa and Sarabi were left wondering why Zazu had disappeared for a few days. Chapter 4. Boo-hoo to you. He had dealt with much bigger herds than this. He'd almost lost an eye for Great King's sake. This situation was nothing. But here was Simba, bottom lip quivering, tears bubbling, voice whimpering, at the entrance of his uncle's cave. The cub stayed that way for a few minutes, just staring at his uncle forlornly, like he was about to just die a painful, horrific death. Scar was irritated by this mysterious silence. He didn't have the ability to read minds. He just wanted to get back to sleep.
What's the matter, nephew?
He asked, trying to lace the question with concern and not malice. Uncle Scar, I was playing pinch with Nala and she won.
And this was more important than lounging around because...
But she pushed me off a rock and I hurt my paw. Simba ended with a sob. Nala had been a little overly zealous and truly didn't mean to hurt Simba. But he was mad at Nala. He was also a little embarrassed. He never won Pinja against Nala. He really didn't want to disappoint his parents either. It took all of Scar's willpower to not laugh. In fact, it was about the most difficult thing that he's had to do in a long while. If there's anything that cubs were good for, it was entertainment.
Now, Simba, I'm sure that Nala didn't mean it. Roughhousing is normal for you cubs, you know. Well, Simba, let's have a look at that paw.
Scar impressed himself when he had to rein in control of his emotions. The wound, if it could be deemed as such, was a tiny laceration on Simba's right paw pad.
Why, that's the worst cut that I've ever seen. You're such a tough young lad. I don't know what I'd do if this happened to me.
Scar knew exactly what he would do, but there's a certain amount of joy to be had in exaggerating in front of cubs. Simba beamed at the praise. He was tough, and he showed Nala how tough he was too. But first, could you lick it to make it better, Uncle Scar? Scar forgot that Karma took joy in others' suffering too.